Hey there everyone! Welcome to my June wrap-up video. It is officially the end of June, so time for this. I was not really as successful this month as I would have hoped, mostly because of real life stuff. The TLDR version of it is I have been back to work for about a month. In fact, by the time this video goes live for you, it would be officially my 6th week back at my job. And I did not anticipate how much it was going to kick me in the ass. And that, I think, was mostly my own fault because I did not stay active while I was off of work. So then when I went back to work, I went from basically sitting down a lot of the time, not really doing a lot of physical exertion or anything, to having a lot of 6-hour days. I had my regular 4-hour days too, but I had a lot of 6-hour shifts right now, which I never had prior to temporarily losing my job a couple months ago. When the pandemic started. I did not anticipate that my feet were going to have to readjust to being on them for long periods of time again, so my feet hurt a lot by the time I got home from work. Even in comfortable shoes. Like, I wear runners all the time, so it's not like I'm not wearing comfortable shoes. But I think the biggest thing is that I did not anticipate how exhausted I was going to be, like, not only physically, but mentally too. So, that basically translated into not as good of a reading month as I would have hoped. I did still finish most of the books I had planned, but I will start with the book I actually did not touch at all. And for anyone who has seen my TBR video for June at the start of the month, I think you already know what this book is. The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. This is about a woman who is, I think she journeys across Europe in order to track down the quote-unquote true history behind Vlad the Impaler, aka Dracula, and his potential connections to her family. This is a massive book at 676 pages and just under 250,000 words. It is huge. And I knew when I got about halfway through the month, and I was still on, like, the other novel I had planned for the month. I was about halfway through that book, halfway through the month. That's how, and I hadn't even touched the 2 manga volumes I planned on reading. That's how bad my reading slump was for this month. That I'm just like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna, I decided to cut this out of my TBR, not stress about it. I have a plan for how I'm going to tackle this book, but I will discuss that in my July TBR video. So now I'm going to discuss the 2 manga volumes that I read. First one being Black Butler Volume 4. Black Butler is a manga series that takes place in Victorian England, and you follow the young Earl Seal Phantom Hive and his mysterious supernatural butler, Sebastian Michaelis. Volume 4 starts the second arc of the manga. Actually, no, it's the third arc of the manga, the Indian Butler arc, in which there are crimes going around where Anglo-Indian people are being hung outside of Indian establishments in London, and Seal and Sebastian end up meeting this young man who calls himself Soma. He is apparently the 20-something son, 26 or 20, son of some kind of Indian royal figure, which makes him a prince. And Soma and his butler, Agni. And all the shenanigans involved around that. I only vaguely remember the 2, Soma and Agni, from the anime adaptation. It's been a while since I read them. I completely forgot what that part of the story was about. But I enjoyed this book. Like, the art is still good. I still think the storytelling for the most part is good. Pacing's relatively decent. It's about roughly average in terms of pacing. It did end on a bit of a cliffhanger, but that's how they keep you going for another volume, another chapter, so that's a given. I review manga in terms of story arcs usually, so I won't be reviewing this volume until I think after the next volume is done. I still have yet to put out my review for the first few volumes, but that will be coming soon. Then, of course, I read Sailor Moon Volume 2, Sailor Mercury on the cover right here. This is the second volume of the first arc of the manga, the Dark Kingdom arc, with Queen Beryl and the 4 generals, Jadeite, Nephrite, Zoisite, Kunzite. If you're a seasoned veteran, or at least saw the 90s anime, you have an idea as to what that's about. It's getting a little better in terms of pacing and in terms of story. The first volume, if you saw any of my videos regarding that, it felt a little bit rushed. But the pacing in this one kind of slows down a little bit, so it doesn't feel quite so quick. It still is quick, but not so much in that it feels like it's too much. And the art is a little bit improved from the first volume as well. To tell you just how quick the volume goes, not only does the first volume introduced the first 4, Sailor Moon, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Venus. This one introduced Sailor Venus, and revealed the identity of the princess that they were searching for. So what took, I don't know how many episodes of the 90s anime, only took 2 volumes of the manga in order to get through, including, their trip to the moon and stuff like that. I'm not going to talk too much in detail about it, because again, the entire story arc will be relegated to its own review video eventually once I've finished reading the arc. And of course, my continuation for the reading of the Vampire Chronicles. I finished 1 book for it this month. This was the novel that I took basically the entire month to read. In fact, the morning I'm recording this video, which is Sunday the 28th, I think. I only just finished it this morning after I woke up. So it's fairly fresh in my mind still. The Vampire Armand. This was a decent book. I wouldn't say it's anything higher than a 3-star. It's not that good to be 4 or higher. But it's I have some words about it, most of it positive. It didn't feel quite as up to par as some of the other books that came before, but I think that's mostly because I'm just not that fond of Armand as a character. I do respect the fact that we know about his background now, and that I know where he comes from for a lot of stuff. There are still some of his decisions and how he thinks and feels that I'm not too fond of. He just didn't click with me as well as some of the other characters did. But this was definitely better. Anne Rice always shines more when she does her more character-based stories rather than plot-based stories, and this is an example of that. There wasn't too much repeating of anything that was already told on Armand's story in the other books. He was mostly just filling in what wasn't already known for the most part. He didn't really repeat much, which is good. I was kind of concerned about that when I originally picked this up. But I love how it's done in that, if you've read Interview with the Vampire and you've read The Vampire Lestat and any of the books that came before, those parts he expands upon rather than just simply reiterates, which is good. Alright, there we have it. These are the 4 books that I tried to read in the month of June. 3 of them that I was successful in finishing, and 1 that I didn't even start. I look forward to seeing your thoughts on these books in the description below. If you're going to talk about the historian at all, because I haven't read it yet, please refrain from posting spoilers. I try not to look up too much about a book before I start reading it. And with that, I would love to thank you all for watching. I post a new video on Tuesdays and Fridays. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!